there is this, we always say, managers have to touch tables, right? This is true. And how awkward it sometimes it can be when someone comes by and says, how are you enjoying everything today? Working that into your service element is key, and getting that validation or being approachable to hear feedback at the moment, but then do something about it at the moment.
Welcome to Whisking It All with your host, Angela Esposito, co-founder of Whisk.ai, a food and beverage intelligence platform. We're going to be interviewing hospitality professionals around the world to really understand how they do what they do.
Welcome to another episode of Whisking It All. We're here today with Olivier Rassinoux, Vice President at the Patina Restaurant Group. Olivier, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I love your background. Obviously, did a little research. I don't just jump into these blind, and you got quite the hospitality background, to put it lightly. But again, I like making these conversational. I'm getting to know you actually for the first time face to face. So let's get into it. So maybe just to start off, and then we'll take a step back. But to start things off, can you tell people just high level, what is the Patina Restaurant Group?
Yeah, so we are a collection of restaurants. You can say we do it the hard way. We've got 30 restaurants and 30 concepts, right? So none of the same, so you got to make it different everywhere. We are a restaurant group owned by a large organization, Delaware North. So we're in different business entities. So we've got gaming, sports service, travel hospitality. So i.e. airports and casinos and stadiums and these sorts of operations. But then for us, we have restaurants, and our largest restaurants, from a volume standpoint, we have quite a bit of business with Disney in both East and West areas. So the volume is there, which is very fun. But then we have a handful of restaurants in New York, Boston, Southern California. Yeah. And we also do a very large catering event called the PGA in America. So we have that too.
Wow.
And that's a big piece of business for us. That's very fun.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I've been to a few of your restaurants. One of them, you mentioned Disney. Not too long ago, I was at a conference, and I was at one of them that I think was I'm in Florida, so it was in the Disney Springs area. I think it was called Edison's, if I'm not the Edison.
Edison,
yeah.
Still forward concepts.
Yeah, very cool spot. So yeah, love it. Cool. So look, I always like to understand how people got to where they are. So first of all, 30 restaurants. For people listening, most of our listeners are restaurateurs, so they understand the complexity of 30 establishments, period. But then 30 establishments that are all different concepts is exponentially harder. So I'd love to understand, maybe before we get into that, your background. So what got you into hospitality in the first place, right? Like going back many, many years, what got you into this space?
I grew up in this business. My father is a chef, and so I kind of always saw pieces of it. And maybe you could say growing up, I would see those little things that you get exposed to when you're in this business. And I was like, I want to do that. That looks like fun. So I started off as a line cook in San Francisco, it's called San Francisco. And like 2000-ish. And kind of grew a career from there. Went into the kitchen, came out of the kitchen, got into the bar beverage business, found myself in Grand Cayman for a couple of years, landed in New York. Then I joined Danny Boulud's restaurant group, the Dinings Group in New York. Was there for quite some time. Went back into hotels with Ace Hotel Group, and ended up all that week with them for quite some time. Then joined the larger conglomerate of Very International. From there, fell back in Patina with little restaurants. So
it's awesome.
It's very fun to pop in and out of hotel operations, but I've always kind of seen this growing up, and it's such a fun business.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy what you do, otherwise work is just work. So let's have fun.
Yeah, no, I love that. So Olivier, let me ask you, a lot of people listening maybe are also just working in restaurants right now, so maybe not necessarily full-on operators or owners, but inspired by seeing your trajectory, right? You started as a line cook, and now you're vice president at this awesome restaurant group. And so I'd love to hear, any advice for those listeners? What did that journey look like for you? And any advice to people who maybe want to move, work their way up, let's say, in the restaurant world?
Yeah. One is, I was guilty of it, when when I was like 22, I was like, I could run a restaurant group. I could do that, right? And now that I look back on this, I know that I couldn't. You need time, and you need patience, and you need experience. You need to have grouping of people that you can learn and lean on, I think, to learn from. And, for me, I took a couple wins and traveled from San Francisco to Las Vegas, to Islands, to New York, back to LA, and now with Las Vegas. But not being afraid to, especially when you're younger, getting into this career, or I could say, younger in actual, when you enter the career, not young in age.
Right.
But don't be afraid to travel and take a job somewhere that puts you out of your element. Because I'd say what I learned in 2 years working at a resort in the Cayman Islands was you can't put money on that.
Right.
And, there's only, for many, there's like one time in your life before maybe you are in some sort of relationship or have a child, or try to do something, or you put too many roots down. In hospitality, you have the opportunity to travel. It's really cool to do it. So, do it, and you get exposed to awesome stuff.
That's cool. That definitely a good nugget there. So for people listening, like, don't be scared to travel, especially when you can, and kind of get that experience. Because I think, to add on to that, another thing I think is super useful, and I'd love to hear from your side, but is like, also just not being shy to find mentors. Like, everyone has had a mentor at one point in their life, usually, and including the mentors. The mentors had someone who mentored them. So I'm curious from your experience, right? Like, working in the industry the last 20 plus years, like, what did you have a mentor, and what type of things that were you able to kind of like learn from your mentor or mentors, if there's more than one?
I think you can learn from those that have positions you seek, but you can also learn from those that are thus entering this career. And working for Daniel Beluga in New York, he's always been a little bit of a mentor, you could say. He's always been good like that.
Yeah.
There's a couple really special, you could say, direct bosses that have been stuck with me for a very long time. Some I followed into new jobs and stayed, and they moved on, and vice versa. But not being afraid to just ask the question. And I'm very big on, well, if I can't get that job, what do I need to do to get that job? Like, if I need more experience, I need this. So, I think the biggest thing is, one, don't be afraid to have a mentor or to ask the question.
Yeah.
And, I always put myself out there for any of my people that I meet, or anybody. If you want to talk about stuff, let's just talk about it. Because that's part of this business. And a lot of it is, my cousin's friend's uncle's brother is the one that's hiring this random position. And I know somebody who's working for that. Right, great. Let's connect them and connect those boxes. And I think it goes a really long way. So, mentors. I guess that's my roundabout way of saying mentors. Great. How to do it. And, it doesn't need to be a formal, Jedi Council introduction.
Mr. Miyagi.
Like, come on, you can just be like, hey, can you help me with this? The answer should be yes. Otherwise, it should be in this business, hospitality.
Yeah. I think the key also is sometimes just remembering that most people that are usually somewhat ahead of you have obviously been where you're at to some extent. And so just remembering that, I think sometimes people are scared to ask, but from my experience, most people actually want to help. Like, if you ask for help, people like helping. People like giving advice and guiding. And if they've been where you've been, like, there's exceptions, but generally speaking, people are actually pretty helpful, and they like feeling useful. And so, like, when you ask for help, it's like you'll usually get a pretty good response.
Yeah, it's rising tide lifts all boats.
There you go.
Successful restaurants help successful restaurants. And
there you go.
if you're busy and I'm busy, then we both have crowds and people cross-pollinate to our bars for all these sorts of things. But, you know, if I'm really busy and you're not, then it's not good for the area.
Exactly.
And you need to have community and you need to respect that. And when you do or understand that, you know, you don't give away all of your secrets, sure, but you can definitely get close to it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
It's funny. I saw something online the other day. It was about startups, but it's probably it's similar to what you just said about giving away your secrets, and it resonated so much with me. But it was basically saying like first time entrepreneurs are usually like very secretive, like I got this idea but I can't tell you. And then people have been in the industry so much and have had failed business and have done it, they don't care about sharing their idea because they know how much execution is needed and how much has to go right, that they're not as, to your point, secretive. So obviously there's some things maybe you keep secret, but generally speaking, it's like, yeah, you can tell who's a more seasoned entrepreneur, or in this case, restaurateur, because it's like they're not shy to share knowledge because they know knowledge is a piece of it, but executing all that knowledge is the hard part.
Yeah, I mean, we can all Google a recipe for something amazing, but
there you go.
That's the difference, right? So
there you go.
Sharing knowledge or sharing is a super key piece.
Yeah,
it's a good way to go. I mean, we all buy many. There's only a handful of like, if you want like a really good beef purveyor, right? There's only so many.
Right.
So just share who it is. It's not a big scam.
Well, and speaking of meat, by the way, I was checking, and we'll definitely jump into a bit of the Patina Restaurant Group right now. I was checking your websites, looking around. So speaking of meat, I think, and if I'm misquoting, correct me, but I think it was top 101 steakhouses, one of your properties in LA, and something about the dry aging process. I don't want to butcher it, no pun intended. So please tell us a bit about that, because that sounded like a really cool concept, especially being in the top 101 steakhouses. So love to hear about that and what makes it so special.
Yeah, it's at Nick Staff's in Los Angeles, and it's landed on this list, and it's a great thing to be on. You know, it's from whenever you land on a list, it's usually a good thing. As long as you're not just paying for it. And there we dry age all of our own meat in-house. Probably one of there's not many in Los Angeles itself where you're dry aging all of your own beef. Usually you're buying it from somebody.
Got it.
Our chef there, Bacon Logan, she's awesome. She's been there almost since the dawn of it, and maybe even since the dawn of it, and it predates me. But the quality of meat and the quality of steak coming out of a restaurant is amazing, and it's not cool and flashy, right? There's a lot of that around Los Angeles. Yeah. We're a hop, skip, and a jump down from the road museum, and what they're doing is really exceptional. Our program is great too. Our GM there, Marlene, does an awesome job, and it's just an awesome meal. And I'm a big happy hour guy. I love happy hour.
Same.
Good one there. But
that's
it's
awesome.
A great state, and it's kind of like a hidden gem of Los Angeles. We always make those. We make the happy hour list there quite a bit, and locally the steakhouse list that usually with those sort of things. That sort of stuff.
That's cool.
It's a very good spot.
That's really cool. And I know there's obviously a ton of other concepts. One thing I'm sure like people listening that especially have more than one concept are thinking is advice around how do you manage it, right? You have this kind of diverse culinary experiences across different states and different areas. How do you maintain, consistency across such a varied portfolio?
Trusting and building relationships with those that are there on site doing it, and can't be everywhere at once.
Yep.
You need to learn to let go of a little bit of control and to say, I trust you because I've known you now and I see what you can do. So let's keep doing it and let's see how we can build it even higher together. And that's team, my success depends on their success. Their success depends on mine. So we are all one together and very inclusive sort of leader, you could say. And that's the way I operate.
Yeah.
So you can really do that and say, I'll adjust your position. If you want to do that, let's do it. I'll support you. And we can live, right? And
yeah.
Yes, we have Italian, we have steakhouses, we have a new Mexican concept in Southern California that's crushing, and there's all kinds of great stuff happening.
Right.
And it's super cool.
That's awesome. And like, were you always good at delegating? Because I know it's something that's important, like you said, especially at scale. You can't be in 30 places. There's a million and one things going on. So tell me a bit about that side of it. Like, how have you evolved just as a leader and like learning to delegate and any advice around that?
I was not always a good delegator. I'm very much one to say, let me show you how to do it.
Right.
Then if you can see that I can do it, then you can also learn the way.
Right.
Mentor, you could say, and boss once told me, you don't do something just because you think it's cool. You do it because it's good for the business, it's good for the guests, it's good for the overall thriving of what we're doing.
Right.
Well, this big rant about, ice once, and I was like, we need clear ice. Why? And ultimately it does melt slower, so people are drinking more cocktails because you're drinking less water. So there is a sense to it. It's not just
pretty
because it looks nice.
Yeah.
There is a scientific reason. And when you understand that, and then you're like, oh, versus like, do this because we are trying to help you, and it looks better. It doesn't just look better, it serves a purpose. So I always want to say you need to share all details, reasoning for decisions, and then let those leaders do it because they'll understand why.
Right.
Not just do it because we're saying to do it, but do it because it's a good reason.
Right.
And, then you can't argue it. They're like, well, I guess I can't argue with that. You're going to do it. So.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And it's funny. It's a subtle difference. But if you just tell someone, at least in my experience, when you just tell someone to do something, it's also just kind of, you become the bottleneck, because now it's like you got 30 places and you're telling people, versus if you empower them and show them and teach them, ideally they got to be trained properly, etc. But once you kind of empower them, they're telling you what they're doing, and then you're like, cool, yeah, that makes sense. And it almost becomes like this reverse way of doing things, where like they're leading now and you're supporting them as the leader, you're supporting them, but they're their own leaders,
Yeah, let me figure out a way to think that my idea is now your idea.
Exactly.
And then you can own it.
Exactly.
And, I have a 3-year-old son, and he's constantly asking why. And maybe this helps me become a better person, because I'm now learning
thinking.
You explained why before I,
assume. Right. That's hilarious. That's awesome, though, that you're learning from. But it's true, though. Kids are curious. So, yeah, especially at that age, 3, 4 years old, you're going to get a lot of whys. And sometimes the worst part is you don't know the why. You're like, man, that was a good question. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's very funny, too. It always leads to, like, it's like, why is the plant green? Like, photosynthesis. But why? Because we need oxygen. But why? At a certain point, I don't know.
Yeah. Then you kind of existential crisis. You're like, I don't know. Why are we here? All prompted by a 3-year-old. But yeah, it's amazing. That's awesome.
But I'm very big on show people and leaders and servers and cooks and everybody. Show them the tools. Show them why we're doing something, instead of just do it because somebody in an office thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a very big key piece. And when you can explain all of that, I think you get better buy-in at this. You have larger delegation, but then a couple ideas have been taken in and they're owning it. Now when you try to say we should just do this, but prove it, everybody jumps on board.
Yeah.
And that's, fruit wipes.
Yeah.
Great idea. Oh, it's usually when it comes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And being in your role right now, like what would you say are some unique challenges that you face? Like, I know we touched on obviously multiple concepts and delegating. Any other kind of challenges that come up that you can maybe share with our audience?
There's a chat. We could say finding people to do jobs. Sure, that's that's like, now it's about how do we be innovative in our industry without just saying, like, we're going to make robots to do the job for us, because that's not, I'm sure that's, maybe it's cool in some aspect, not really, but it's a people person job. This is a people industry. We are hospitality. You have to be hospitable, you have to be reactive. I think that the challenge is how to be innovative in a place that is very innovative already. And is it just because it's innovative, it doesn't mean that it's like futuristic or like something that belongs in Back to the Future we got from that, right? It's more like, since the dawn of time, we put a lime wedge on a margarita. But why? If it's ready to drink and it's good, you shouldn't have to do that. We typically serve salt on the side of my food. No, because it's been seasoned. So I'm very big on questioning things that we've done ever, and why are we doing it, and we need to continue to do that, or can we even push the boundary further and do something different?
That's interesting.
I think it's a fun way to think about stuff, and you can do that. You can crack that code, it's and point on this. Now I'm totally on a different tangent. But anyway.
No. That's super interesting.
It's a good way to think. Yes, the challenge. Yeah, so the challenge in business is how do you be innovative without just being without technology? And the word innovation usually in our business is like technology, right? It's usually right there.
Right.
I think there's ways to be innovative and look deeper into what they're usually doing and how do we change that process.
Yeah.
I tell teams all the time, I don't want you to work harder. I simply want you to work different. And when you think like that, I think it helps a lot from a business case.
It's an interesting perspective because I think you're absolutely right about the idea of like generally people think innovation, they think tech, but there's probably a lot of examples of just being innovative without tech. And I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like when you think about, for example, where the industry's heading, and most people are getting more and more techie, generally speaking, and maybe robot servers and this and drones and whatever, and just getting more and more, implementing more and more tech. Where do you see the kind of full service restaurants? Where do you see kind of that future going? Because I have my thoughts, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts as things generally, in QSRs and maybe fast casuals become more and more, I guess, transactional to a certain extent. Where do you think the future of FSRs would be heading with all these, technological advances?
Maybe just that there will be less of them. I think to want a full service restaurant, I want to sit down, I want someone to come and take my order. That's part of the whole experience that you're paying for.
Yeah.
Sometimes instead of trying to cut a corner and say you're full service, but you're not, just say you're not and change your service model and adapt to that. You can have very good food in a counter service or like order, take a number, we bring it to you.
Yeah.
But even that can be very innovative. Like you're not having a lesser quality product, you're not having a lesser experience. You just need to build it into that. And when you say that sort of a thing, not everybody, we can't all have full service restaurants and say, 10, maybe 6 will continue, or will actually become a different service level. We have, say, counter service, casual service, full service, probably going to be a new genre created, which is somewhere in the middle of all of that, right?
True.
And
yeah.
It's not just order at the counter and your food gets dropped. But maybe there is a hybrid where you aren't ordering in one central place. However, when your food comes to your table, somebody is engaging with you still, and you can actually order more from them. Versus here you go, if you want to order something else, you can go over there, or you do it on your phone, which no one wants to do anyway.
Right.
I will retract that. There is one time when you want to order things on your phone, and if you're at a resort and you're sitting in a cool chair and you're like,
that's true.
Margarita right now.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. I agree with that. Yeah, it's funny. The ordering, I don't like ordering. This is my personal opinion. I like seeing a menu just because there's like more real estate, and I like just, so I prefer a menu over a phone, like a tiny screen. But if it's like something more transactional, like example, it's the end of the night, I can't flag down, or if it's like reordering a beer or something more trivial, I find that's where like the phone, I don't mind. It's like, oh, you know what? They're busy. I get it. Like I'm trying to flag someone down. I'd love to just tap my phone and order another beer. I like that use case, but I'm with you. Generally, like just too much on the phone. It's like, man, just. But it's funny. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I kind of see it as like this cyclical thing, and it's almost like with fashion and anything else. It's like, I don't know, aviator glasses, are in, and then they're not, and then they come back, and whatever, bell bottom jeans, and you kind of just see like and even just in life, like like living outside of a big city is like how people grew up, and then like everyone moved to cities, and now it's like kind of cool to like maybe have a house or something outside of the city. And so you kind of start seeing these like trends. It's almost like a circle. And so when I think about full service at a high level, I agree with you that it's possible thing, is maybe trending down generally speaking, just because it's hard to maintain, let's say, a full service restaurant. But my prediction, I could be way off, but my prediction is like as more and more tech and robots and all these things come and people order to their house and take out, the full service will maybe even become more and more valuable because it becomes more of a rarity, more of something that's like unique, right? Like my parents growing up, there was mainly full service restaurants. Like, so quick service was the new thing on the block. We're like, cool, let me pick up a sandwich and whatever. But now I feel like not yet, but my prediction is as things become more and more robotic and transactional, there may be an opportunity for full service restaurants. Again, it might be a brand in between, like you said, which I think that's a good shout out. But I always feel like that might be an opportunity where people just want that human connection, similar to like, oh, it's cool to like now have a farmhouse. It might be cool now to go to the full service restaurant and be like, what do you recommend, Olivier? What's your favorite dish? Like just missing that human interaction.
It's a big call out. And, part of what I love about a full service, we in this business, we make decisions throughout the entire day. I go to a restaurant. I don't like to look at the menu at a time. I like to look at it when I get there.
Yeah.
Part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
The server, it's always, it's always my question. It's like, what do you like? Because it's your place. You tell me what to get. And
Yeah.
I don't want to buy it. And it's like, it's usually like, okay, great, done. There is something for that. And, as we do evolve in this business, like you said, there are things that will be, that's probably how fast food came to be in life. But this was a genre which did not exist.
Exactly.
And then it became.
Right.
So,
Right.
We've also now modified to fast casual, right? So what is the next? I cannot point it. I wish I had.
Yeah, the term that's...
There it is. We had trademark.
Yeah.
I don't have it, but there is a different level in between. It's something. And it's almost like working through all of these different ideas. Somebody's going to come out of it. And, there is a genre for that. Now,
Yeah.
Fast food has a little bit of it could have a negative connotation because it's too fast.
Right.
So,
Right.
You're making that.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is something in between there, which I think can work. And quality is key, but I don't think anyone is afraid to pay for something if there is value and quality to it. And you just need to be cognitive of what is that quality and value. So it's level of service, it's the build out of the space, it's how food is delivered. There's innovation and creativity to all of that.
No, it makes sense. And how do you balance, like you just said, innovation and creativity, but then with the operational efficiency of your role as well, right? Because it's like business, restaurants are not easy businesses. They got to be run properly, and margins, and there's only a few things you can control. So I'm curious to say, like, how do you balance that creativity and innovation with operational efficiency?
Well, I think that's some of the, you could say, secret sauce that comes with experience of being in different restaurants, seeing different cultures, seeing different ways things are being done. And, we have one of our restaurants in Epcot, it's called Space 220. You're dining in space, and it is massively busy all the time. And, like we serve anywhere between 80 to 100 old fashions every day.
Wow.
And that happens. And then that's only one of the 10 cocktails. Expectations are very high. There needs to be value, and I can't just skimp on quality or creativity because of the high volume. So we have to find a way to create balance and say, yes, I can hit my cost. Yes, I can hit my price point. Yes, I can hit my production and flavor profile and all of these little things that go into it to make sure that it hits. So, there can't sacrifice quality for quantity.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we as in this business do that because you say, well, I can't make 2,000 of those every day. You can. You just need to think different and find a way. If I have 2,000 guests coming through there and everybody gets one thing, why don't you make a bigger thing for two because they share it? So now you're making 1,000 things instead of 2,000. And the hour based on your guests and your needs, and question everything and don't sacrifice quality, because that's how you get torn apart. I think get reviews or guests coming back, and they can see through. They can see through that.
Yeah.
There are some things, right? So I can't make it press up, but if somebody gives me a very good, like, take this and bake it at home, really good. But there are quality products you can see through it. So I think that also your average guest is a lot smarter and they have a lot more, say, accessibility at their fingertips. So if you think you found something to create a shortcut, they're going to find it, and then they're going to know that it's not good.
Yeah.
Or it is really good. But, maybe you can say, I always thought that during COVID, everyone's own bartending skills became better.
Right.
So we had to up our game within the business.
That's interesting, right?
It's anyways, that's about
no. It's spot on. I totally get it. It's a mix of, like you said, it's like don't sacrifice, but also you have to run a business, because without the business, there is no one to serve and there's no one to staff, and so it's like a fine line. I think that's part of the art. The business of a restaurant is the art in itself, because you're like, how do I, to your point, hit that flavor profile, and it's priced value driven, so it's reasonably, whatever that means for that place, that location, that crowd, whatever, and finding all these things. And it's one of the things that's personally made me passionate about restaurants in general, is that if you think about it, there has to be so many kind of like aha moments, especially in full service, but in general, but especially in full service, and so many things have to go right to like have a good time. And it's crazy when you think about it, because like, was the parking easy? Did I get greeted by the hostess well? Was that first drink good? Did I have to wait to get my first glass of water? Was the food good? Did I have to wait? Like, and what's crazy, if is one thing is off, it's like that someone has a negative perception. It could be, I waited too long for the bill, but how was the food? Amazing. How's the drink? Amazing. How's parking? Easy. How's the place? I love it. But I had to wait for the bill. What do they remember? That they had to wait for the bill, which is such a stressful part. But I think that's why I have such a respect for restaurant operators, because it's like, you need so many things to go right for someone to leave and be like, yeah, I'd recommend that place. And it's like that little sentence, there was like 13 things that had to go right.
No, it's true. And sometimes we go through like, what is the guest journey?
Right.
Here, right? And parking and entry, and how do you find it? This could be a major barrier that you'll never win. And you just like, that's part of it. So you taking those things, all of that into consideration, how easy you can get in and out of your restaurant.
Right.
But food could be amazing. Your service could be unreal. Yeah, parking sucks. It's not good.
Right. And it can be the smallest thing, down to the attitude of the server. You can have an amazing night because you had the coolest server, and then the opposite's true too. The food could be good, everything, but the server was a bit rude, and you're kind of like caught off guard, and you're like, I'm not going back there. And you're like, well, this sucks.
If you have the opportunity to travel and be in this industry, to take it and to do it,
and
to get exposed to other things, I'd say that I've worked in a couple of resorts in my life.
Yeah,
and it's a funny thing. If you're at a diner around the corner from your house, a little local mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
Great. You've got neighborhood people, and they're going through all of what you just described.
Yeah.
All of these things every day.
Right.
There'd be a couple times a week. It's regulars, and it's like a cheers situation.
Right.
Anyway, so then you have the resorts where if you don't deliver on dinner, you haven't ruined their dinner. You ruined the vacation.
The vacation, yeah, that's pressure, because you have a new flow every week.
When you're in dining experiences or restaurant experiences that are beyond neighborhood places, but if you're part of a destination, you're part of a larger experience, or you're doing someone's wedding, right? Or something.
Right.
And so expectations are even higher.
Right. Shit, yeah.
I say this because taking this mindset in, then how do you really do guest recovery, right? It's such a key piece. And unfortunately, we live in a space where a lot of guests will not tell you anything. They'll go home and then they'll rip you online.
Right. The worst.
They're afraid of confrontation, or they're afraid that the answer which you get might not be what you hear. And there is this, we always say, managers have to touch tables, right? This is true. And how awkward it sometimes it can be when someone comes by and says, how are you enjoying everything today? Working that into your service element is key, and getting that validation or being approachable to hear feedback at the moment, but then do something about it at the moment.
Yes.
It's so key in the success of this business, right? Because, like you said, if you check one of those boxes wrong, you could lose a guest for life and they'll tell 10 friends.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the worst part.
Really connecting with every table. And it's something that I think that I always highlight about a top restaurant where the owner is there and at the door, knows you when you walk in, knows everybody. You know, somebody walks in and it's like, oh, you're here for the thing you like. And there's something to that versus sometimes managers are afraid to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, I always question it. How do you incentivize our managers? How you get them to stay and how you get them to own it like it's theirs, right? If you give somebody a yearly bonus, maybe that worked 10 years ago. What about every 6 months you get a bonus based on how long you're staying and how your performance is, right? Even though it's the same amount of money, it's just you're doing it faster.
Yes.
So keep managers to manage and talking to guests. It's so key because that's full service.
Yeah.
It's not just server, it's also management engagement.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Keeping employee morale high, keeping the managers motivated, which is not easy, but there's an art to that too. And if you can keep them motivated, ultimately it trickles down to the guests. And even sometimes, to your point, it's not just like the what, but it's like the how. So like maybe a manager might come by and say like, everything okay here? And like as they're walking away, yeah, they're like, of course I'm not going to complain in that moment. But if someone comes around and says, hey, I noticed you didn't eat too much of that salmon there. Everything okay? I will respond, so there's also the art of the how, not just the what, because someone could check it off and say, yeah, I went to every table. I said, how's it going?
But and we say it's based on what is your hospitality. If you're a neighborhood spot,
right?
There's a way to talk into it. If
exactly.
There's so many ways to get into that.
Right.
Where are you here from? The first question, easy.
Yeah.
And then you can get into, oh, you only ate 2 bites of your fish. Why?
Yeah. So, yeah.
How's everyone? Check.
Yeah. Next table. Yeah. It's interesting. That's what I love about the space. It's like such an art and science. Like yes, it's a business and it's all about numbers, but those numbers are related to so many things that are like qualitative things, which is interesting. Just switching gears and just kind of wrap it up. I'd love to know like, what does the future look like? What exciting projects or maybe expansions, if you can share? If it's private, you don't have to, but if there's anything you could share of exciting projects or expansions on the horizon for the Patina Restaurant Group.
We're launching the American Brasserie concept. And so we're getting, building a couple different street side restaurants, which is fantastic for us. And it'll be the first brand that we launch and create that is built for multiple locations with the same brand. So we're finally learning a little bit to do that, which is one.
That's awesome.
So that is exciting. We just launched Sales Centrico at Tiendita, which is our 3-in-1 concept at downtown Disney in California, which I'm proud of I-10. So we'd like to expand that relationship more with him and or Disney wherever we can. But there's the street side restaurant, American Brasserie is key. There's a couple things there in the hopper which are great, but that's a big one for us. Oh, apparently we're going to invent something between casual and full service restaurants also.
I can't wait. That's going to be cool. A whole new category. And you're probably right. There will be a whole new category. So it'll be exciting to look back at this one day and be like, oh, found it. This is the name that they came up with. It's called... Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of it either. It's hard to come up with a name on the spot. No, that's awesome. And last but not least, I like that off of maybe like just on a more personal note, 2 quick ones. One is just, what has been the most rewarding part of your career so far?
I think it is watching teams around me grow and watching their success as well build, right? And I still talk to many managers, many servers, bartenders, etc., that have grown since I worked with them, and we easily stay connected as well. Think about, say, social media or other things. It's watch each other grow, and it's fun to be like, remember when we did this restaurant a while ago, and look at us now, So
that's cool.
Looking back on those memories, and I think it's really nice. Also, I will reemphasize yet again: travel while you can.
Yes.
And go do crazy things because you won't regret it.
I love that. It's funny. That was actually going to be my other question. Was going to be to wrap up. What advice would you give to aspiring restaurateurs? So one is travel while you can. Anything else you want to throw in there?
Don't be afraid to take a risk about an idea. hit you, the worst thing that can happen, you just got to change it back to what it was before, right? That is how you can define innovation or success.
I love that. And then finally, last but not least, I always like to just kind of plug our guests any way we can. So really just a chance. We're going to put it in the description in the episode as well. But if you want to share your website, the Patina Restaurant website, your LinkedIn, whatever you want to share, you can just drop it now. We'll also put in the links. But if you want to share anything, the floor is yours.
We've said some of the places we operate throughout here. You know, if you get the Google Patina Restaurant Group, we got a new website coming. It's a little dated. I will admit that. But, you know, there's fun things there to discover, as well as within Delaware North as a larger organization.
Yes.
There's some really good things you're doing. And it's not just in the U.S., you know, also UK, Australia, and a few other places. So, also, do a shop. If you just want to chat, I'm here. You know, you can find me. It's not hard.
That's awesome. And if you want to connect with you on LinkedIn, I'll at least give them your name. So I'll spell it out. Olivier Rassinoux. Rassinoux is Rassinous. Is that okay if I'm plugging that? LinkedIn? Follow Olivier on LinkedIn?
Good shout out.
Cool.
All good.
Cool. I love that. Amazing. Well, look, Olivier, wealth of knowledge. Is honestly super cool to talk to you. You just seem like a generally cool and fun guy. So it was nice to connect and just hear about your experience. And once again, we're here with Olivier Rassinoux, Vice President of Patina Restaurant Group. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Kit. Thanks for having me.
Feel free to check out whisk.ai for more resources and schedule a demo with one of our product specialists to see if it's a fit for you.